Good morning. Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Free Press Media Press Inc., an alternative parties books publisher, sponsors this podcast. I'm Andrew Bouchard.
Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Today we have another exciting guest like we always have in this podcast. Her name is Krista, and she is with a party called the Keystone Party. So welcome to the podcast, Krista.
Hi. Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
We're glad to have you on the podcast, and we look forward to hearing all about you and your party. So let us get started by you kindly giving us an introduction to yourself, a brief biographical sketch.
So my name's Kristine. But my name gets messed up all the time, so no worries. I am the media relations for the Keystone Party of Pennsylvania. Formerly, I was the vice chair. Recently, though, I shifted gears because I wanted to focus a lot more on our media outreach. And I also am a candidate for state representative under the Keystone Party this past election cycle, as well as the campaign manager for our governor candidate and lieutenant governor candidate this past election cycle as well for here in Pennsylvania.
Wow, exciting. Sounds like you got a lot of roles and responsibilities.
Yes, I do. Being a resource in trying to bring change to this country is kind of a goal of mine, and that is one of the reasons why I got involved with the Keystone Party, as well as a lot of the other founding members of Keystone. We saw that change wasn't happening in other areas and in other major parties and minor parties, so we wanted to establish a party where we were solution-based, and so it's been an exhilarating ride so far.
Awesome. So you're one of the founders of the party.
Yes, I am. I am one of, I think there's like a dozen of us that started the party. We started talking about it in March of 22, almost a year ago, and officially we were founded on, I believe it was April 4th of 2022, and we jumped right into it. We were trying to recruit people to run for office. There's a deadline in Pennsylvania where if you are part of a major or minor party, I believe it is, that you have to change your voter registration by a certain date to be able to run under a different party, and that's 30 days before the primaries. So we had a strict deadline with establishing the party on April 4th that we needed to recruit people from any kind of major or minor party to basically jump ship and run underneath Keystone in like a week and a half time period. So that was a big crunch.
Oh, my. So that's interesting. So kindly tell us what it's like to form a party, what you have to do. You mentioned some of it already. So form an organization as a party. Is it, in Pennsylvania, is it electoral process, getting on the ballot? We did have a podcast episode about how to form a party, and it's in different areas. Did you have to file forms with the IRS? How did it go for you? Kindly explain that.
Well, a lot of it is just paperwork and money, honestly. The longest part of the process was coming up with a name for the party because we wanted something that wasn't already used or had any kind of bad stigma attached to it or, any kind of history that was maybe negative. Also, we didn't want to combat with any copyright infringement or anything of that nature. We ended up going through, I think, 3 names and filing with one other name prior to settling on Keystone. And Keystone was actually chosen not because of being from Pennsylvania, but because it's the strongest part of a foundation. And that's what we want to bring to government, to politics, is being the party that can be leaned on for solutions. Also, in addition to just finding out, obviously, the name, there's paperwork to file with the state and with the IRS. There are fees contributed or associated with it that had to be done in a certain order, and that's where our treasurer and some of our other founding members who have ample experience working in this kind of field were an asset to us becoming a party.
Sounds good. You mentioned a number of roles that you played in the party already. So since you said that you're the media relations representative, kindly explain to us, Kristine, what that entails. What are the roles and responsibilities?
I'll be completely honest with you. With only being less than a year old, a lot of these responsibilities are shifting slightly as we grow and as we get more people interested in the party here in Pennsylvania and across the country. So the role of media has actually shifted a little bit. Originally, it was going to be to respond to, media responses like from news stations and newspapers. It's also now taken over being responsible for social media, any kind of press releases and things like that. That's what it currently stands as, and as we continue to grow, that may again change. Some of our officer positions in our board have slowly changed as we have found a need for certain areas and not a need for other areas. But for media relations, it is to be a voice for the party, a representative to speak for the party, as well as be the point of communication when it comes to any kind of like update from the party as well.
Sounds good. So since you were mentioning that you're different than the other political parties, both the major parties and the minor parties, kindly describe how you see yourself as different from the other parties out there.
We like to believe that we don't go to the extremes. We've seen a lot recently in the political atmosphere that, everything's extreme left, extreme right, or, when you get to, like, say, the Libertarian Party, taxation is theft and we need to avoid all taxation. Those are a bunch of extremes. Abortion should be banned completely or everything should be accessible. We don't know how to find common ground, and that's what Keystone kind of wants to bring to the forefront, is that we understand taxes are essential in making sure that we have a civilized society. However, there is overspending that's happening in our government, and that's what we need to be holding people accountable to and keeping an eye on. There's a way to have access to medical and health care in like, say, in the case of abortion rights, but was also taking into consideration the concerns from those who are against abortion. It isn't an all or none kind of situation, and that's what we want to bring to the forefront, is that we want to find a way to work with both sides and finding a way so that everyone has a voice and not this winner-loser mentality.
So would you say that you want to synthesize political ideas?
I'm not sure what you mean by that. Can you...
Since you were describing how you don't want to go to the extremes, with synthesis, what I see people doing as they take parts that they feel are the best from both sides or different points of view, and then they put them together to create the best solution.
Yes. Yeah, sorry. It's been a long day of cleaning and stuff, so I apologize. My head is not in, like, dictionary mode to say it. No, yeah, that is definitely what it is. We believe that there's a way to find a compromise and to pull the best solutions that would have the most appeal to everyone in those demographics that those would be affected by. And, because when we've got, so like here in Pennsylvania, they're talking about doing a full ban on abortion, and it's all or nothing. And it's like there's so many people who don't feel that way, that they're right in the middle, and there has to be a way that we can listen to everyone so that everyone feels like they kind of walked away with a win as well.
Sounds good. So kindly tell us what your platform consists of.
Our platform really focuses on being an advocate for term limits. We believe that there should be reasonable term limits to prevent any kind of like gridlock within committees and legislation, as well as we are a big supporter of a part-time legislation. Here in Pennsylvania specifically, we have some of the highest paid representatives and Senate in the country, and actually our state house is getting a raise here shortly. And having been a candidate running for the House, I know how often they're in session, and it's not that often. So they basically work part-time hours, in my opinion, and get paid full-time. So Keystone as a whole is a supportive of part-time legislation. We also are in support of auditing the government. We believe that, there's a lot of spending problems in the state, not necessarily revenue, so we need to keep a balanced budget. We also are for fair elections. We are an advocate for open primaries here in Pennsylvania. We don't have open primaries. They are closed. They are just to the Republicans and Democrats, yet we use taxpayer money to pay for those elections. We're also supporting of fair districts, which is for, to reduce, to get rid of the gerrymandered districts that we have. We support criminal justice reform and, ending no-knock raids and things of that. We are a little bit all over the place, if I'm being completely honest with you, because we realize that everyone in this country is a little all over the place. No one is 100% Republican, 100% Democrat. We're finding that most people are moving to like a centrist kind of mindset and looking for solution-based. We have items on our website to kind of break down a lot of different areas. It's Keystone Party. We believe in affordable health care. That does not mean Medicare for all or anything like that. We believe, personally, when I was running for office, I was running on that I believe we should have availability to shop for health care across state borders. I can't necessarily say that everyone in Keystone believes that, but I know that a lot do because, it allows for better pricing to happen. We are also believe in freedom of speech and self-ownership. We're a pro-Second Amendment party. We also do believe that there needs to be some kind of, proper gun ownership and some background checks and things like that to make sure that we're not just giving guns out to everyone. We are supporters of the LGBTQ and your right to your own autonomy and things like that. I could go on all day.
You mentioned, I'm sorry. Did I cut you off?
No, you're fine.
You said you could go on. Okay. So you mentioned open primaries. A lot of people in our audience may have heard of that. So in case somebody hasn't, can you briefly explain what open primaries are?
Absolutely. In a closed primary state, only Republicans and Democrats get to utilize the state system to pick their candidates for the general election. In an open primary, depending on how it's structured within the state, the basic idea is that everyone would get a voice in the open primary. Some states do it where you have to pick one party that you're going to vote for to have a say. Some do it where an independent or a non-affiliated third-party candidate or voter can vote in either. It really comes down to the structure that's had in the state. But basically, in a closed primary state, only those that register as Republican or Democrat get to vote unless there's amendments. If there's amendments, then you get to vote on just the amendments. But in an open primary state, anybody who is registered to vote would get to vote on something, on someone for some office to have a say in that primary.
Sounds good. Sounds like a good reform.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone should have a voice, and just because you register as an independent or unaffiliated doesn't mean that you don't want to have a say in how something else goes. So everyone who's registered to vote should be able to have their voice be heard.
Sounds good. So since you mentioned running for office before, kindly tell us what you learned from that process and how you plan on leveraging that both in the race that you're running and also as your party work in general.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about ballot access a little bit ago. I didn't really touch on that, but I'll touch on that a little bit here. I was asked to run for office as a way to get Keystone's name out there. And while I was petitioning for ballot access, because in the state of Pennsylvania, we have to collect a certain amount of signatures by the 1st of August, the first Monday of August, to be able to be on the ballot. For my race, I ran for state house. I needed 300 signatures, and so realistically what you need to do is you need to get double that to make sure that if they challenge you, you have ample enough of signatures. And so that was a whole learning process in its own. I've collected signatures for Joe Jorgensen in the past, for some other candidates in the past, but I've never done it for myself. So while I was out petitioning, I found that there was really a want and desire for another voice. Our current representative has been in for office for a few terms now, and has done really nothing. My Democratic opponent is a crazy extreme leftist and wasn't a sane option for a lot of people. So they were really thrilled to see that there was another option. And I think that that's something that is reassuring as we build this party, especially here locally, because we are founded in York County and that's where I was running for office, that it kind of was building this foundation, and we were able to establish who the party is based on the candidates that were running. And I'm well versed in my community with all of the stuff that I do. So in running for office, like I said, we had to collect signatures for ballot access. That was a learning experience. And then when we turned my signatures in, my Democratic opponent actually challenged me to get me removed from the ballot. So that was a whole learning experience, and it was very expensive. So starting a party and trying to get people on the ballot, you definitely need to have a lot of funds in the bank. We were fortunate to find a lawyer that gave us a little bit of a discount and a payment plan, but it ended up costing $5,300 to maintain me on the ballot. And within like a week and a half, we were able to confirm and assure that I would stay on the ballot because we fought it and I had enough signatures. I personally, in the time that we were collecting signatures, collected 1,100 signatures statewide, and I collected about 700 in my county alone. So now not all the signatures were good for me. But then we got into elections, the campaign season and getting up to the primary election, which was a lot of interviews and needing availability for press conferences and debates and all of those things. And it's a really a struggle to maintain your day-to-day life, your family life, and also campaigning. And I don't think a lot of people take that into consideration, just how often you're going to have to respond to phone calls and emails and texts and meet with people. And it really does, you really need a support system, and not everyone realizes that. And so that was definitely a key in finding out as well.
That sounds good. That's good for people to realize. So I trust that they will take your advice and use that when they run for themselves.
Which everyone should run for office at one point in their life. I'm a true believer of that. I think that it gives you a new perspective on the electoral process. It gives you a new perspective on the laws that are being created around you. It gives you an appreciation for your community. And I can't tell you how many times I cried on the campaign trail because of being told that they were so glad that someone was standing up for this or standing up for that, or seeing a woman run for office. It definitely is life-changing. Even though I didn't win, I came in third. I got 3%. I am running again in 24. That's my intention. I definitely recommend to run for some kind of office, even if you don't think you're going to win. It's really life-changing.
Wow, that is quite the testament for running for office.
It's aggravating and frustrating, and you got to make phone calls to ask for money. But it was definitely life-changing, and I think most of our candidates would say something similar.
Wow, that's a great perspective. Kristine, kindly tell us how our listeners can support your party. You mentioned your website before. Is that a good way, or do you have other ways that people can support the party?
So our website is the best way to reach out. We are right now trying to build our counties and our regions within Pennsylvania. We are in communication with some other minor parties to see about cross-party support as we all grow. And we are working with different states across the country to try and build Keystone parties in those states as well. But the best way to find out who we are, how you can help, or any other resources to reach us on would be our website, which is just keystone.party. You'll be able to check out our whole platform there, be able to donate if you would like to donate to our party to help us get out there and get people elected. We are, in addition to building our local regions and counties here in Pennsylvania, we are trying to look for candidates and vet candidates to run for local office this year, and we already have a ton of people that have reached out in interest, and we've already actually officially given our nomination to some people. I'm not sure if I can officially announce any of those, but we have one that's looking to run for a statewide race that is a special election this year. So we have a bunch of people who are interested in school board and councils and things like that. So all of the money that we get from our website and any kind of donations is going to help in fielding those candidates and getting them on the ballot for 2023. But we also are on Facebook. We have a TikTok that we're trying to build.
Oh, good.
Instagram and Twitter. Again, I just took over all of these reins. Still getting used to what kind of messaging to put out and getting the grips on all of that stuff in addition to all the stuff I do in my personal life. So give us some time. All of that's going to build and be better and give a good message out there. But those are the ways that you can reach out to us.
Sounds excellent. Kristine, thank you for coming on the podcast today, and we wish you all the best in your personal, professional endeavors and your races that you run for office and in party building in general.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time and for being able to be on here. I wish you nothing but success with your podcast as well.
All right. Take care and all the best.
Have a good one.
Bye now.